The media virus spreading all around. We're a pack of morons stuck here on the ground. They feed us the lies while we just stand by, drowning in the noise as the truth walks by. It's the media violence taking control.
Submitted for your approval, a man who has dedicated his life to illuminating the imagination of another. His name is Nick Parisi, author, historian, and president of the Rod Serling Memorial Foundation. He has written the definitive biography of Rod Serling, and he spends his days ensuring the Twilight Zone remains not just a place of fiction, but a cultural touchstone for generations yet to come. Tonight, he steps across dimensions, from the page, from the archives, from the memory of Serling himself, and joins us here in the Media Virus podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, Nicholas Parisi. You know what I just learned? I can't do a Rod Serling impression.
That was not bad at all. It's a tough cadence to pin.
What's that?
It's a tough cadence to pin.
It is. And then once you start it, and like you're trying to keep it and not like just go dull. Because he wasn't dull. You know what I mean? It was like it was everything, every breath was enunciated. But dude, Nick, thanks for coming on, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great, guys. How are you guys doing?
Good. I'm fantastic. I'm doing pretty good.
Good.
So tell us, like, just I gotta know, like, how did is this something that you've created, or is this something that you stepped into? Like, where did the Rod Serling Memorial Foundation begin?
It began long before I became involved in it. We're actually celebrating our 40th anniversary this year. So it was founded in 1985, 10 years after Rod died. Rod died in 1975. And in 1985 in Binghamton, New York, which is Rod's hometown, one of his teachers and early mentors, a woman named Helen Foley, got together a group of Rod Serling's friends and colleagues and decided that they would start something that would explicitly preserve and promote Rod Serling's legacy. And they founded the Rod Serling Committee, which very soon became the Rod Serling Memorial Foundation, a full 501c3 charity that is dedicated to that promise. That's our mission statement. And 40 years later, here we are. We're still going strong.
Wow. So what got you involved in the Rod Serling Memorial Foundation?
Well, I've been a fan of Rod Serling and a fan of the Twilight Zone since I was about 10 years old. So I became aware of the foundation long ago, before I started researching my book. And I reached out to the foundation, donated some time and some money into the foundation, and became a member. And then they asked me to join the board of directors, and eventually became the president. So it's just been a gradual progression. And it's really, was born out of my interest in everything that Rod Serling had written, not just the Twilight Zone, but everything else. And that's where the Rod Serling Memorial Foundation, that's the place to go if you want to know anything about Rod Serling, period, not just the Twilight Zone.
That's fantastic. Johnny Barrett's commenting on the gentleman who sent me your link, said he's plugging your book for you. Said I have a copy of Nick's book on Rod Serling. He said I recommend it. It's an interesting read.
Tell John his check is on the way.
There you go, Johnny. I scored you a deal. But Rod Serling is remembered as a visionary, and in your research and foundation work, what do you think people still misunderstand about him?
Well, I guess there's a couple of things. One is just the idea that Rod Serling was only the Twilight Zone, and that's understandable. It's for me, it's the greatest series that was ever on television. It's understandable that would be his legacy. It was 5 years of his life, 5 years of his creative career. He wrote 92 episodes out of 156 Twilight Zone episodes, and some brilliant, brilliant stuff, obviously. And 65 years later, we're still talking about this series. So again, that's understandable. But I think people are surprised when I tell them, Rod Serling was the most prestigious writer in television before the Twilight Zone. One of the reasons he was able to launch the Twilight Zone is because he had already built up the name and the reputation as being a great television writer. And that was before the Twilight Zone. And then after the Twilight Zone, he wrote a whole lot of really great stuff after the Twilight Zone that people forget about. I mean, he co-wrote the original Planet of the Apes, which still surprises some people when I mention that. He wrote a lot of really great stuff for the show Rod Serling's Night Gallery, which gets a short shrift very, very often.
I was thinking about that one the other. I couldn't remember that one.
Night Gallery ran for 3 seasons.
There's a great one that has John Astin in it as a washed-up DJ.
Ah, yes. Yeah. He didn't write that. Rod didn't write that one, but yes, I know the one you're talking about. Yeah.
I didn't realize I was muted because there's a riot going on outside and the police showed up. So I muted myself. But I was completely unaware that he was involved in Planet. If you think about how Planet of the Apes just penetrated the American society, like we're still like the Simpsons had that Dr. Zaius reference. Wait, that was 10 years ago, but it was still 20 years ago after the movie. And now there's Dana Gould does the Dr. Zaius show. Like he has a YouTube show where he dresses up like Dr. Zaius. And you know what I mean? So it's just like it's
never left the lexicon.
No, and it either is really the Twilight Zone. I mean, I kind of feel like we're living in the Twilight Zone, which was because
we are,
which was kind of like I was like, you know what, let's talk to this guy because he might actually. I don't think you actually have any answers, but it's fun to have the conversation with you. Anyway,
yes, absolutely.
Now Serling, he often used sci-fi and fantasy to talk about racism, war, and morality. Do you think he would, like, if he were like alive today, would he still be making poignant films using those, or would he just be screaming on Twitter?
Yeah, no. Well, Rod was a writer, so Rod would still be writing. His chosen medium was television, so I think he probably would be writing for all mediums at this point. He'd be writing for television. One of his great unrealized ambitions was to write a Broadway play. I'm sure he would still be working towards that. He was writing a lot of prose fiction at the end of his life, so I think a Rod Serling novel would have probably come. I mean, he did write a couple of novels, actually, that went unpublished. So I'm sure he would have published a novel if he had lived longer. So, Rod would be using his platform, whatever that may be, to make points that were important to him. They're about to talk about the things that he was passionate about. And that's what Rod Serling was all about. Rod Serling he believed that it was the job of the writer to do that. If you're going to write something, write about something. And that's what he did in the Twilight Zone. It's what he did in everything he ever wrote.
So do you think if he were like writing today, what issue do you think, like modern issue, do you think he'd be obsessed with? Would it be like AI? Would it be misinformation, cancel culture? Like, what do you think would be the morals of his writing if he were?
Well, I mean, if he were around right now, he would be distraught at the state of our country. He would be writing about having a fascist in the White House. He would, and I'm not going to pull punches. I don't think Rod would pull punches either if he were sitting here. He would be writing about the idea that half the country would support a person who does and says the things that this person does, who I will remain nameless. I won't even say the name. So he would certainly be writing about that. Would he be tweeting about it? Yeah, probably. He'd probably be using all of his ammunition, all of his outlets to scream from the rooftops about it. But he would certainly be writing fiction, whether it be prose fiction or television teleplays or screenplays, whatever it may be. So he would be writing about that. He would be writing about the prejudice that we are still dealing with today and that has been encouraged by the current occupant of the White House. He would be talking about that. Prejudice was Rod Serling's big bugaboo. He believed that all other evils stem from prejudice. So it was something that he had a lot of trouble talking about on television in 1959, 60, 61, 62, 63. But I think he would be amazed at the freedom that he would have right now to talk about it, because you can talk about these issues on television now, and certainly on streaming series and things like that. So he would still be talking about the same issues that obsessed him in 1960 that are still alive and well, unfortunately, today.
The genius of the Twilight Zone is that he still talked about those things. And
yeah, exactly. He used the Twilight Zone. He used that genre to tell to address these issues.
Sci-fi's always been good for that. It's the Twilight Zone clearly does it, and it moves on into like Star Trek and those. They push those boundaries of what's acceptable, and
I think every science fiction series after the Twilight Zone owes a huge debt to the Twilight Zone, because Rod Serling really broke down some doors. Gene Roddenberry would tell you straight out if he were here that he was very much influenced by Rod Serling's approach on the Twilight Zone, and Star Trek probably wouldn't have been the same show if it were not for the Twilight Zone coming first. So yeah, absolutely.
So for people that might not know, what does the Rod Serling Memorial Foundation actually do day to day?
Well, day to day is hard to say, but what we do is, we give us a yearly scholarship to a graduate of Binghamton High School, which is Rod's high school that he graduated from. We do events like Serling Fest. Serling Fest is an annual celebration of Rod Serling's work, where we gather Serling experts, and not to mention his daughters will be there, as well as people who, some people who knew him will be there to talk about Rod Serling's work and Rod Serling's legacy. So we do that. We publish a quarterly newsletter by email to our members, and we send that out, a physical copy once a year that goes out to all of our members. And we try to make people aware of, again, the breadth of Rod Serling's work. So just between his writing, his teaching, his speech making, Rod Serling was a prolific orator, especially later in his career. So we try to make people aware of all of these aspects to Rod Serling's career.
Serling Fest sounds pretty amazing. Can you tell us what goes on there? What's your favorite part?
Well, my favorite part is just getting together with everybody. This year is going to be particularly special because we have four first-time guests. We have a certain group of a key group that shows up every year that gives presentations and readings and things like that every year, and that's including Ann Serling, Rod's daughter, who wrote a beautiful book about her father called "As I Knew Him, My Dad, Rod Serling," which I highly recommend to anybody listening. But this year we're going to have Frank Spotnitz, who is a producer of the X-Files, as well as The Man in the High Castle. He'll be joining us for the first time. Joe Dougherty is an Emmy-winning television writer for the show 30-something, if you remember that. He also wrote for Pretty Little Liars. He just wrote a book in tribute to Rod Serling that was just published recently called Rod Serling at 100, One Writer's Acknowledgement. He's going to be joining us for the first time. David Bianculli from NPR's Fresh Air, he'll be with us for the first time. He is also a teacher, and he uses Rod Serling's messages in his lessons. So he'll be with us to talk about that. And Jonah Tulis, who is a documentary filmmaker, is going to be making a pretty definitive biography documentary about Rod Serling that's going to be released. That doesn't have a release date yet, but he's going to be talking to us about what's going into that documentary. Wow. So he'll be with us for the first time, and just seeing all these people and getting to hear their perspectives on Rod Serling and his work and his influence on their work, that's a big deal. So we do that all day on Saturday. Serling Fest is a Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday event. Friday night we generally do screenings. So we're going to be showing a few things on Friday night, and they'll be introduced by certain people. So Joe Dougherty is going to be introducing. We're going to screen one of the hour-long Twilight Zone episodes. Frank Spotnitz is going to be introducing an X-Files episode that was really explicitly influenced by the Twilight Zone. And then we're actually going to be showing the pilot episode of a series called The Loner, which was a Western that Rod Serling wrote after the Twilight Zone, so that not many people have seen. So we try to show these things that people are not necessarily familiar with at Serling Fest. We show really rare stuff. And then on Saturday, we're calling this event Serling Fest in his own words. And so we're going to be focusing on speeches that Rod Serling gave that people have not heard, interviews that have not been seen or heard in decades, if that. So we're going to be showing a lot of those on Saturday, along with an author's roundtable and things like trivia and things like that as well. And then on Sunday, we'll be at Recreation Park in Binghamton, which is the home of the Rod Serling statue, which we unveiled last year. And we'll be there for some events there as well.
Sounds like you've got a full.
Do you get like a younger crowd come out? Like how do younger people like connect with Rod Serling?
Younger people do connect. I mean, when I do events, when I do book signings and things like that, I always have younger people that come up and say how much they love the show. So that's really encouraging. The Binghamton School District, they do something called the Fifth Dimension program, which is really cool. What they do is every year, the entire fifth grade in every elementary school in Binghamton uses Rod Serling as their lessons for that week. Oh. And they all learn about things like, mob mentality and prejudice and scapegoating and even, the World War II issues and the horrors of war and things like that. And this year I was able to give a talk to a lot of these, actually every one of these classes at Rod's statue in Recreation Park. And every one of them loved the show. I asked every one of these classes, did black and white bother you? And they almost had to take a double take because it wasn't black and white. They don't even realize it. Once you get into the show, you don't even realize that it's in black and white anymore. And these kids loved it. So yeah, when they're exposed to it, the younger generation absolutely loves the Twilight Zone.
That's fantastic. It's good that it's continued on.
Absolutely. That's the idea.
Yeah, you literally wrote the book on Serling, right? Rod Serling, his life work, and imagination. Mm-hmm. What surprised you the most when digging into his personal life?
His personal life, I got to tell you, almost nothing really surprised me. If anything, what surprised me was the fact that I went into this project with Rod Serling as my hero. I make no bones about that, Rod Serling being my hero. And I spent 4 years at least going through his correspondence, going through everything he ever wrote. I felt like I went through his laundry, and I came out the other side admiring him even more. He was just a good guy. He was a very personable guy. He got along with virtually everybody. The people who worked with him loved him. The actors on the Twilight Zone, the producers he dealt with, directors. Even just, his personal life. It was impossible to find somebody who said a bad word about Rod Serling, other than the producer of the Night Gallery, Jack Laird. He's the only person that Rod Serling didn't get along with. And that's saying something. So yeah, if anything, I was surprised in a very good sense, by that.
Was there anything in your research that didn't make it into the book, but you still kind of like wish you just want to make sure that it gets out there?
A little bit. If you read the book is, my idea was that I really wanted to cover absolutely everything that Rod Serling wrote that was produced. So I did my best at that in terms of, and chronologically, right from the beginning all the way through his last show. So I ended up maybe giving short shrift to a few things. One particular, he wrote the screenplay for a movie called 7 Days in May, which is now considered a classic. It's a classic political thriller. I think I probably gave that short shrift. I mentioned in the book, but I don't give a chapter to it or anything like that. So I think that would be one thing. And yeah, the book just in general was, I had to cut. God, it was it ended up over 500 pages, and originally it was probably over 800 pages in published form anyway. So yeah, I really had to cut it down just to fit it, just to get it to fit.
So, like writing a biography like that, like means you lived with Serling's like voice in your head for years. Like, how do you shake that off, or do you still hear him narrating like when weird stuff happens to you?
I don't hear him narrating. No, I don't. I know people who do say that they when weird stuff happens that they hear him narrating what's going on. But no, but I think about him all the time, and part of that is because his words are still so relevant. I mean, I just I see things on the news or I see things just on the internet or whatever it may be, and it reminds me of something that Rod Serling said. It's just inevitable that there's always that connection. It's not even 7 degrees of separation. There's 2 degrees of separation between something and Rod Serling, and I can just always make that connection. So no, he hasn't gotten out of my head yet. That's for sure.
So, wow. So, like, I know when did you first discover Rod Serling? Like, I guess it was the Twilight Zone, right?
Yeah.
And then, like, you're the president of the foundation. You didn't start the foundation.
No.
Were they so impressed with you writing the book? They're like, well, shit, he wrote the book, so fuck it, type of thing. Like,
I don't think that hurt, but no, I mean, listen, I was very involved being on the board of directors. They asked me to be on the board once it became clear that I wanted to donate my time to help this foundation with that, whatever has going on. That became obvious. And, and our previous president, Andy Pollock, he had served, I think, at least 4 years, I think. And he just felt it was time for him to step down. So when he did, I threw my hat in the ring and said, I'd like to be president. So it was pretty much as simple as that. And Andy is still with us. Andy's our treasurer now, and he's still very, very involved in the foundation. So that's kind of how it goes. We have we have, I believe, 14 members on our board right now. And when I step down, somebody else will take my place.
that's really cool, though. I guess it's a volunteer position.
Yeah, we are all volunteers.
Yeah. Johnny says with the coming of AI, it makes him think of the Rod's episode, The Obsolete Man. And it's funny because we use a lot of obsolete men in the production of this show. We use AI. We abuse it. We hit our max almost every day putting things together, and we use 4 different AI robots to accomplish what we do.
Yeah.
And like that scrolling thing down there, I just asked for it on AI and told them to put those little fucking doodads in there. That's cool as shit, isn't it?
It works. It works.
But so
I get what John's talking about. I mean, AI could make a whole bunch of us obsolete. That's the worry. That's the fear. Hopefully it doesn't happen to that extent. Of course, in the episode The Obsolete Man, it was a totalitarian government that was making people obsolete by declaring that certain positions were no longer in service of the state. So that's a whole other bag of peas, as Rod would say.
Yeah.
but AI, it could have that effect. Sure.
So if you personally had to enter the Twilight Zone, what object or setting would be like the doorway in?
Would be the doorway, huh? Well, that's a good question. I mean, there are certain times in the Twilight Zone where someone does physically enter. It seems to enter the Twilight Zone in a certain way. For example, in A Stop at Willoughby, the main character enters his dream world by jumping off a train. Or in A Walking Distance, the main character just walks home to his hometown and realizes he's gone back in time. So I think that would be the easiest. And,
I was thinking of the family of dickheads that are stuck in the town.
Say again?
There's like a family of dickheads. Like, I don't know. They just seem like idiots to me. And they're stuck in the town. Like, they keep driving out of it. They drive out of the town and pull up. It's the same town. And they get on the train. It's the fake.
Yes. Yeah. It's not even a whole family. It's just a couple. It's a married couple.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They get on the train in Centerville, go right around, and arrive back in Centerville. Yeah. Rod didn't write that one, but that may have been that was probably one of the first episodes I ever saw, actually. Yeah,
that one sticks in my head, and then the people with the pig faces.
Yeah,
that's how ugly they had gotten.
Mm-hmm.
I Am the Beholder.
Yeah. I don't know.
That's classic. Yeah, it's a great one. Yeah.
So, this is the last question that we have like prepared. So, but if you had Serling at this podcast table right now with us for 5 minutes, what would be the burning question that you needed to ask Rod Serling?
I would not. First of all, I think I don't know if I would have a question. I think if I had him for 5 minutes, the first thing I would say to him is that, if you read my book, one of the things you learn about Rod Serling is that he was his own worst critic. He was his own harshest critic. He never gave himself a break. If something was good, he thought it was bad. If something was great, he thought it was passable. He just was always so hard on himself. So if I had him for 5 minutes, I would just say, Rod, listen, you are just so much better than you were ever giving yourself credit for. Give yourself a break. And let me tell you about how great this is. Let me tell you how long your creation of Twilight Zone is going to last, how it's going to last way beyond, your lifetime and all of our lifetimes. I would tell him those things just to let him know, that he made a difference and he made his mark. Rod
He
Serling
probably shit just to find out there's a memorial foundation. Like if you brought me back to life and said, "Oh, there's a Matty Rockdef Memorial Foundation," like fucking why? You know what I mean?
He would be amazed. He would be amazed
Right.
that there's a statue of him in Recreation Park in his hometown. He would be amazed that there's a memorial foundation. He'd be amazed that we're talking about him right now.
Really? Yeah, literally.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's that's a legacy. So it's noble work you do. It's worthwhile. Keeping that message alive and keeping his memory and his value system going.
And the Twilight Zone, such a great entry point. There's beautiful, beautiful high def masters out there right now from the original film stock that are just gorgeous.
Oh, the Blu-rays look fantastic. Yeah, they really look amazing. Done on film and just If you look at it, it's amazing.
I caught a couple of episodes this winter, but they do one of the stations near us does a marathon, and I had the antenna hooked up. I said, "Oh, I just wanted to see wanted to see what I was getting on the antenna," and I watched a couple of episodes because it was just so crisp and clean on that high def.
Yeah. It's amazing. If you compare it to the Twilight Zone reboot in 1985. And the original Twilight Zone just looks so much better. It looks like the 85 version has dated and aged so much worse than the 59-60 version.
That's the thing about great writing, though. Great writing, you will forgive the shoestring budget every time.
Absolutely. Yep, you're right.
It is.
That's why
hey, Mike, right. We don't have either of them. We don't have great writing or even a shoestring budget. But Mike, do you want to take the Rod Serling S outro? So because I embarrassed myself, if you want to give it a shot.
All right. Tonight, you've traveled with us not just through news, noise, and nonsense, but through the imagination of a man who once held a mirror to society and dared us to look. Rod Serling's voice may have left this world in 1975, but his words echo still, sharp, urgent, and unafraid. Thanks to Nicholas Parisi and the Rod Serling Memorial Foundation, that echo does not fade. It reminds us that mortality, justice, and the strange corners of human nature are never confined to fiction. They live on in memory, in imagination, and as always, in the Twilight Zone.
Very good. Much better than I did.
Well, I fall back into me.
But you sound really good, so that makes me... Nick, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
I hope you had a good time, man.
I did.
If there's anything that if there's anything we didn't cover, please make sure that throw it in. You have any book signings coming up or anything like that? Anything you got?
Just when Serling Fest starts, and we are actually doing a book signing at the Barnes and Noble in Vestal, which is right next to Binghamton, but that's on Friday at 3:00. So I can email you the flyer if you want.
You have I looked at your website. You have a contest underway right now, don't you?
Yeah, we just opened up again the narrate your own Twilight Zone contest. We have people who write their own for an imaginary episode, write an introduction and a closing narration for a Twilight Zone episode, and then we.
How do we do?
It's very successful every year. We get lots and lots of entries, and then the board is the judges. So,
if we entered what we just did, would we even make it to the finals?
Yeah, I think so. It's kind of a weird episode, I think, but
I mean,
weird episode that starts with me about me. I mean, that's a little weird.
I mean, it's not that weird. You seem like a pretty interesting dude.
I appreciate it.
You know what I mean? You know, it's like becoming what else do you do? Or do you want to talk about like the rest of what
I'm a musician. I mean, yeah, no, listen, I actually, it's funny you mentioned the VA. You mentioned the VA before or whatever. I work for a law firm. I represent disabled veterans in their compensation claims before the VA. So if they're trying to get service-connected compensation, that's what I do. So I'm not an attorney, but you can be a non-attorney and handle those cases. So that's what I do. I work for a law firm. I've been doing it for quite a while. And
the gentleman who I was telling you, that's what he works for the VFW. I'm sure he does much the same work.
Yeah. So that's what I do. Yeah.
And Johnny chiming in with Mike, that was brilliant. I bet Rod is smiling down on you from up there. I did not get any compliments at all for my effort. So, and yeah, he's a VFW service officer in New Hampshire.
Okay, yeah, yep. So yeah, I do what the service officers do. It's most, basically.
So that's a strange connection, I think.
Yeah.
Well, Rod was a veteran, wasn't he?
Oh, he sure was. Yeah.
He served in the Pacific. That's no bullshit.
No, Rod.
He didn't get to go fuck French broads, dude.
No, he was fucking Filipino broads.
And they're dangerous, dude. You know what I mean?
They'll cut you.
But no, yeah, he saw some heavy combat right in the Philippines. Yeah. So
no, that's all the Pacific Theater was fucking heavy combat.
Yeah. Yep.
That's so he came back with with I'm sure he was very different ideas on how life worked.
No doubt. Yeah. I mean, he was 18 when he joined, and so he grew up fast. So,
and he thought it was his dude. Like he signed up. It wasn't a draft situation.
No, yeah, he volunteered the day after high school graduation.
Yeah, he went and served his country. It wasn't because when you're young and stupid, that's what you do.
But also, he believed that it was the right thing to do at that time. I mean,
right? No, I understand that.
He wanted to go punch Hitler.
Yeah, but he didn't get to Hitler. He got to go.
No, he got to go fight the Japanese instead.
Right, the vicious fucking Japanese. They were horrible.
It was all horrible.
It was all horrible. But what I'm just trying to.
Oh yeah.
It's a very specific brand of hell that he had to go through.
Yeah, no doubt. Yep.
And again, man, thank you for your time and everything.
So much.
I don't,
Well, thank you guys.
I had a great time with you.
Yeah, same here. All right. Hopefully we do it again sometime.
Yeah, man. All right. Talk to you later.
Thanks, man.
All right.
Okay, bye.
So, coming up, we're going to be doing the C block at 10. That's going to be a much different show than what you've witnessed before.
It sure is.
But it's going to be funny. I almost guarantee that.
Okay.
Because I put together more games.
Okay.
We're going to play Defend or Deny again.
All right. That sounds good. That was a good game.
I like to hurl baseless accusations.
Everyone likes it.
But we've gotten some letters looking for advice, and we're going to dispense some advice.
That sounds like a terrible idea.
This horrible.
It'll be comic gold, but it sounds like a terrible idea.
Yeah, I hope nobody actually listens to our advice, but can't stop them.
No, you can't.
All right.
But they wish we could.
Right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on the B block here here at the Media Virus Podcast, number 253, where we talked with Nick Parisi from the Rod Serling Memorial Foundation. And I guess that's about all I got. So I'm going to get us out of here. This episode of the Media Virus Podcast is brought to you by 302-46 Voice. That's 302-46 Voice. If you want my voice on your project, dial 302-46 Voice today. Don't forget to check out our sister show on the Media Virus Podcast Network, Stepmoms Without Children. Join Ricky Rockdef as she takes a deep dive into the fascinating people she meets and thinks that you should meet too. Find Stepmoms Without Children at themediavirus.com, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your fine podcasts. Special thanks to mysportsreports.com and delawaresports.com, delivering regional sports coverage straight to your devices via stream and podcast. Learn more at mysportsreports.com and delawaresports.com. If you wish to sponsor the Media Virus Podcast, email your contact information to pml@themediavirus.com with the subject line sponsor, or leave us a message at 646-VIRUS-01. On behalf of the infection team and our feckless leader, Matty Rockdef, I'm the Reverend Professor Mike Latoris, coming from to you live high atop Uncle Butch Studios, with one hand firmly on the pulse and the other clawing for a shred of sanity. This has been the Media Virus Podcast. We'll be back next week. Find us at themediavirus.com, on social media, or download us now from your favorite podcast platform.